And what's it in service of? He's saving the world. He's saving a crap ton of people. Like, it's pretty obvious. That. I mean, what thin plot there was, you could have figured that out at least. What's up, guys? Welcome to Boss Level 8, where we make fun of movie critics. We are talking about Mission Impossible Fallout. Did Tom Cruise do his own stunts? Yes. Did he break his foot? Yes. Was there a mustache that needed to be there? Yes. And it wasn't computer generated, so that's good. Was there a plot? Who knows?
Mission Impossible.
It's Mission Impossible. We are together going to read Keith Ulich's review for the first time. That may be how you say his name. Ulich, I'm not sure. Before we read his review and see what he had to say about the movie and just generally make fun of him, hit the subscribe button if it's your first time here and the little notification bell right next to it so that you can get notified every single time we have a video. Now let's read this guy's review and see how bad it's gonna be. How much spectacle is too much? Well, if you've ever been to Disneyland, there's no such thing. And now that Disney's finally paying their employees $15 an hour, there's gonna be even more spectacle. Costco's getting nervous. Pretty soon they'll let them have tips, like Starbucks. The question comes to mind often during the 147-minute 6th entry in the Mission Impossible series, subtitled Fallout and starring, as ever, Zenu's favorite son, Tom Cruise, as unflappable and mostly unbreakable IMF, Impossible Missions Force, secret agent Ethan Hunt. Wow, that was really long-winded just to get to the point. We all know what these are. This is like, what, the 90-second movie? How many of these have there been? You could have cut right to the chase. Also, please don't say unflappable again. Ever. Never use that word. I don't care if you used it in the right way. It just sounds gross. It sounds like a bird jerking off. Also, you pointed out how long the movie was and then talked longer than the movie. Get to the point. Behind the scenes devotees will know that Cruise fractured his ankle while performing a between buildings leap during the film's production, though it might have made more sense if he tore his Achilles tendon, given that writer-director Christopher McQuarrie, overseer of the prior Rogue Nation, begins this arduous blockbuster with the mission, should you choose to accept it, tape hidden in a copy of Homer's Odyssey. Holy fucking, you talk way too much. It's so weird. It was beat into me my whole childhood not to do run-on sentences. My whole life it was like, that's the most wrong thing that you can do. It's the worst kind of writing you can do. And I am running out of breath reading what you have to say and forgetting what you were talking about by the time I reach the end of the sentence. No man aforetime was more blessed, nor shall ever be hereafter, is how Odysseus describes Achilles in Homer's The Iliad. Fallout follows through on at least the first part of Odysseus' sentiment, missing no opportunity to prop up Cruise's indomitable earthly ego while his character runs, jumps, falls, fistfights, skydives, and clambers up rope and cliff in service of what exactly? I understand it's all to service his ego, but he got the shit kicked out of him. He lost. A lot. In fact, one of the characters beat up him and Henry Cavill. They both lost to one dude. If that's not a shot to the ego, I don't know what that is. I mean, a bullet stopped the fight from someone else. He didn't even like end a fist fight with a gun. Someone else ended his fist fight with a gun because he couldn't end it with his fists. And what's it in service of? He's saving the world. He's saving a crap ton of people. Like, it's pretty obvious. That. I mean, what thin plot there was, you could have figured that out at least. Much of the film's action is confined to France and England, all the better to allow Cruise to drive the wrong way through traffic around the Arc de Triomphe, or to ascend monkey-like the Tower of the Tate Modern, so he can strike a power pose against the London skyline. I'm sorry, but like, England and France aren't the only two places that have interesting things in them. That's nonsense. They could have done it in New York. He could have been scaling one of their famous buildings and been like, oh, what an interesting backdrop. And trust me, it would have been a lot more fucked up driving the wrong way in New York. They could have just done that. But it didn't make sense with the plot. So, you know, they went with the plot. As thin as the plot was. Also saying that he had a power pose when in actuality he's like beat to shit and out of breath. That's like, I understand that like when someone finishes a marathon that like they've done something impressive and triumphant, but they also have like jelly legs and immediately fall on the ground. It's not a power pose. It doesn't change how impressive it is. It just doesn't quite look power posy. It's not like he's superhero landing when he jumps off the building. I'll figure it out is Hunt's oft-repeated mantra in the face of all the purportedly impossible odds. Of course, that's not what he says. Pretty much him and his entire team says they're working on it and not that they'll figure it out. out. They might not figure it out. In fact, how close they come to failing is kind of a joke that happens. So, wrong line, wrong sentiment, and kinda not what happens in the movie. But I guess I would say good try, but it wasn't. You know what? It wasn't. The one time you don't have a run-on sentence, you're just completely wrong. To which the members of his IMF team can only throw up their arms and heave weary sighs as if submissively muttering under their collective breaths, "That's our Ethan." Yeah. Yes. And to be fair, if a person like that exists, that's what you do. You trust them to get the job done and you mutter under our breath like, well, that's what's gonna happen. And you kind of like have a little faith that he's gonna get it solved. Because you know what? Most of the time he does. He almost single-handedly saves the world a lot. So, shut up and listen to him, I guess. If someone writes 50 hit songs and then gives you songwriting advice, listen. A little of this reverent compliance goes a very long way in Fallout, but it gets especially irritating in a late scene in which Stickle delivers a fawning monologue about how unimpeachably wonderful his partner is, as if any doubts to the contrary would be equivalent to blasphemy. Stop! Faust was an indelible foil for Hunt in Rogue Nation, with her sensuously steely demeanor and gravity-flouting legs of doom. That's what you put on your profile if you're like an escort that wants a very, very educated clientele. If you understand what I mean, you can have my company. Yet, here she's demoted to a neutered cheerleader for his— oh god. What? Neutered cheerleader? What? For his, and by extension, Cruz's reckless abandon. Oh my god. Neutered cheerleader? That's nonsense. She's such a badass. She does so much. She saves him at least twice in the movie. No, that's nonsense. Yet unlike do their own stunt exemplars such as Buster Keaton and Jackie Chan, there's nothing generous or uplifting about Cruz's jaw-dropping exploits. You want it to be uplifting? Why? Generous, I just don't understand, but why do you want it to be uplifting? It wouldn't make sense if he was fighting the way Jackie Chan did, or Buster Keaton. Especially you considering the fact that like you named two people who did things often for the sake of comedy. So like you want them to have action comedy more in Mission Impossible since he's doing his own stunts? Do you hear how dumb that is when I say that? That's yes. Dumb, right? Like, beneath each potentially bone-crunching feat, you sense desperation, a need to prove his physical and mental agility so as to keep doubt, a dimming star, and death at bay. He's just proving himself because he might die soon? First off, the look in his eyes isn't desperation. It's what happens when you're jumping off of something high, hanging from something high, going against traffic on a motorcycle, crushing your damn ankle. It's fear and pain. That's what's going through there. And he's not, to say it's crap that he's trying to prove himself physically and mentally is stupid. Of course he is. You think Jackie Chan wasn't doing that? And Buster Keaton wasn't doing that? Like they were just doing it like it's a freaking walk in the park and they weren't trying to prove anything? That's nonsense. Why the hell would they do it? It's an unseemly display, and it's why Cruise tends to work best in films like War of the Worlds and Eyes Wide Shut, which are two movies that you can't really compare. We'll move on. Where his vanity is utilized against him, where he exists primarily to be put through a torturous ringer, where he effectively becomes the unwitting butt of a seemingly infinite cosmic joke. He's in so many movies that he's good in, and you gave two examples where you can say that. But he's in so many other movies. So is he the butt of a joke in Risky Business, or Cocktail, or Top Gun, or one of the many other things that he's done? He's in so many things. That is just absolute nonsense. But it's also funny to say that's where he works his best. Because you're like, Eyes Wide Shut, which is like the work of Stanley Kubrick. And then like a sci-fi action movie that didn't really do that well. Okay. You catch a glimmer of that frailty in a close quarters bathroom set fight scene in which Hunt and Walker face off against a roundhouse kicking, karate chopping antagonist, Liang Yang. Every time Cruz gets knocked to the floor or through a white tiled wall, he stumbles to his feet and shoots a "what the hell am I doing" glance to the ether, or maybe the stunt coordinator. Because he's bad at stunts? Or because he's like, I'm doing pretty good, aren't I? Considering my age and the fact that I'm not a stuntman. And because I'm fucking crazy for even doing any of this shit. As in Rogue Nation, Fallout's action scenes are cleanly composed and easy to follow, and so abundant as to become monotonous. They're all so different though. There's a lot of them, but they're all so different. It's like going to a tapas bar. There's a lot of food. It's all a lot of different food. Yeah, I'm not with that. There's barely a second to breathe in between the halo jumping, the motorcycle crash, the helicopter ramming, and in the tedious countdown clock climax, the frenetic frame toggling between widescreen 2.39 and IMAX 1.90 aspect ratios. Can we skip this part? Because this is just nitpicky and stupid. Can we skip this? Alright, let's skip this. It would help if there was a single character worth caring about. Through an unintended effect of reducing everyone on screen to a dewy-eyed Tom Cruise booster. The second you said Tom Cruise booster, all I could think of was like a booster seat or the lifts he put into his shoes so he doesn't look awkward when he's kissing women. That's like the only seat, like special effects. The one stunt that he didn't do was be tall enough. Is that it no longer leaves poor Michelle Monaghan returning as the incognito Mrs. Ethan Hunt in the lone thankless role. The real fallout here is that everyone's a zero. Or, if you actually did study, which I assume you did because that's probably why you're doing this, they're all just archetypes. They represent archetypes. In fact, you mentioned Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, archetypes. That's what it is. They represent things. The person you're doing it for, the person you can't be with, the person you believe in, the person you need, the person you don't need, the one who's against you, the one who's for you. It's all just archetypes. We learn a little bit about their backstory, we learn a little bit about who they are so we can care just enough, but the reality of the situation, all we want is good guy win, bad guy lose, people cry, happy, yay. Also, the Odyssey is just about a man's journey, and you could just take it at surface level like that, because Hunt's on a journey too. Don't read into it too much. Well, I'm completely out of breath reading this because these sentences were really long and it was just tiring. It's like I got a workout dealing with the nonsense of this review. Did you think it was just as dumb as I thought? Probably. But I'd love to hear why, and we'd love to read your comments. So put down in the comments what you thought of Mission Impossible Fallout and of this review. If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe button and the bell right next to it so you can get notified every single time we have videos. There will be videos on the screen while my face is talking. Click on one of them and you'll see another video. And until we see you next time, geek out and game on.